You have asked, and now I'm going to give you the gym tour that I've been slowly building up over like 7 years or so, and I pretty much built my physique mostly in the garage here. So I'm going to go over the things that I like, things that are probably a waste of money that you don't need, and help you decide what you should get for your own gym. So the very first thing is this rack. It is the basis of my entire gym. I got this from Rogue. It was the very first piece of equipment. It ties into the wall. You can actually pull the pins and fold it in. This rack is great for all kinds of stuff. I got these J hooks. It's from Rogue. It's got all the different holes, so for bench press, squats, whatever type of thing, you can set your barbell up. And then these safety racks, also from Rogue. I'm not sponsored by Rogue either, but I got these from Rogue. I'm not afraid to go heavy on squats now because I know I won't die. I can just drop it on here. The bad thing is I can't really use them if I'm doing flat bench because the bolts down here are in the way, so I can't get it on. I guess I could still have it on at an angle like this, but it won't go all the way flat because those bolts are in the way. So something to keep in mind with that. But this rack is definitely the best thing. Then you have all the weights here. Now, I started out with these. These were some of the cheapest rubber coated weights I could find. Just a set of 45s, basically a 300-pound set with a bar. So you got the 45s, 35, 25, 10, 5, 2.5. And that came with this old barbell right here. And this thing's fine, it worked nicely. You can see here, the coating, it was cheap and started chipping off, and I've cut my finger plenty of times sliding my weights on, forgetting, and then a piece of metal comes off and cut me. So that was a little bit painful. But when I started getting into powerlifting, I got some different barbells. This one, I made a video on these two, but this is my deadlift bar. It has some whip in it so it bends and helps with lifting heavier weight because the bar bends some before it comes off the ground. And then this is my normal power bar, custom logo that I got on there that I use for squats and bench press. So there's lots of barbell options. Really, you could do everything you want with this. I got all the way up to a 400-pound deadlift, I think, with this. I think it was this bar. Maybe 375, something like that, but pretty high up there with this stiff bar. And then when I got this one that bends, I noticed a huge difference. So, benches. This was the first bench I got. It was like, I think 250 bucks or something like this. It's got a bunch of different angles. It goes from flat all the way up to 85 degrees. So I would do seated barbell overhead presses with it all the way up. The seat also tilts up as well. I like doing seated curls and stuff on that. I don't use this much anymore because you can see the padding's nice, but when I started getting into the more powerlifting stuff, when I got into the mid 200s on bench press, my shoulders would kind of go over the edges of this and then dig into the sides, and it was really uncomfortable. So that was when I invested in this actual powerlifting tight bench that meets the specs of everything you need. It's got all the same different angles on here, but it's a lot thicker padding. It's got some grip so you don't slide on it. It's wider so you can actually bench press more when you have more stabilization there. And one thing that's nice is this stays, no matter how you do the angle on this, there's not a big gap like on that bench. Kind of sink down into it, and especially if you lay down to do dumbbell presses or something, your butt might go into that gap and hit some bolts, and it's kind of uncomfortable. But this thing's quite expensive compared to the other one, but it has been really nice. I use this for most stuff now, but I'll still use that for like seated curls. I use the back of it for calf raises. And then I have this other bench. This one was really cheap that I got pretty much just for doing leg extensions and leg curls. And I'll set my dumbbells on it when I'm gonna do dumbbell presses or something like that. So I don't have to pick them up off the ground or put them back on the shelf all the time. I can just grab them, do my set, and that works out. So 3 benches, really I could probably just do with these 2 if I didn't need anything. That one's nice to have, but I don't need it now since I have the better one. So going with a quality bench is definitely a good thing. I would suggest investing in, so you don't have a bunch of extra benches just sitting around. Attachments. So one of my favorite attachments for this thing is my dip attachment. Stick this on, it's really sturdy. It's got some fat handles on it. This is from Rogue as well. And I use that for dips, and I'll set it up and the kids will do pull-ups on it sometimes. This is one that it wasn't expensive, but this landmine, I think as you can see, it's got spider webs on it because I never use it. Kind of a waste of money, I never use. I got it at first and put the barbell in and tried to do some like bent over, Yeah, bent over rows, but I couldn't really get it deep enough. I tried to set up a bunch of weights so I'd be up really high, but the time it took to set it up just kind of made it a waste of time. And I don't really like, I tried doing shoulder presses and things like this, but I just didn't really enjoy it. So I don't do that. So I wouldn't waste my time with one of those unless you just like that type of exercise. Something I do really like, I forget the brand name of this cable deal, but I got this. It just came with a strap kind of like this that you wrap through the weights, and that was a pain when you're trying to hook them up and changing weights a bunch. So after getting that, I bought this so I can easily slide weights on, hook this up, and then I can use that for lat pull downs. That's why I have these weights here on the ground right now, because I'll sit on the ground, put my feet against these so that I'm a little bit further away and the weight doesn't fall on my crotch. This is one of my favorite devices. I made a video on this for deadlifts, jacking up the bar so you're not killing your back when you're doing heavy deadlifts. Also got this attachment for another way of doing rows, pulling them down like this usually. And this one I like for tricep extensions. It's one of my favorite grip angles there. And then this I never use. I bought this for that landmine deal so I could do one arm ropes, but I just prefer doing dumbbells. Takes a lot less time and get a better range of motion. These are my favorite collars. Snap on easily. I got a bunch of those rather than these type of things. But I mean, these come with most type of weights, so you don't need to waste money to buy more of those, but I just prefer them, so it works for me. Weightlifting belt. This isn't really an attachment, but it's still gear. One of my favorite things I use here. For squats, I don't use them for deadlifts. A lot of people do, but I just prefer none. I've got this one that I use to stick through weights when I'm doing dips. And sometimes if I'm doing heavy tricep extensions, I'll hang a weight in front of me because it'll kind of pull me forward when I'm doing 100-pound tricep extensions. You got the chin-up bar on here. I pretty much never use, because if I'm gonna do pull-ups, I prefer the angled ones like this, because ever since I hurt my bicep a few years ago, if I do just straight pull-ups, it starts to hurt right here, and definitely don't want that to get messed up again. Moving on to the dumbbells. When I first started buying dumbbells, I got the set of 5 through 50s, and that lasted me for a while, but then I started wanting to do heavier bench pressing. So I bought the 70s, 80s, and 90s are down there right now, but the 70s, 80s, and 90s cost more than the whole 5 through 50 set. I bought the 5 through 50s before all the COVID stuff happened, and they were actually pretty cheap, but now it's ridiculous. And then these set of hundreds was ridiculous too. So I've got 5 through 50s and then 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100 now. And I'm gonna get some of those micro gains clips to go in between. Sometimes I'll throw a 5-pound weight over my hand if I wanna go in between. It's not ideal, but I don't wanna buy even more weights because it takes up space. But I got this rack after a while because I used to keep these on the ground and they would get extra dirty, and then I just didn't like it. So I got this rack. It works well for all that and other stuff I want, like my wrist straps. These Versa grips are really nice. Got charts that I keep track of stuff, chalk, baby powder, stuff my wife uses. Got my knee wraps, bar pad, which haven't done hip thrusts in a while, so I never even really used that. And then some cheap weights down there that my wife uses, the colorful ones. But as far as dumbbells go, you don't really need all this. I would suggest if you're just starting out, get a rack with all your barbell type weights. You can do pretty much anything you need to get done, every muscle group, with a good barbell and some weights. Dumbbells are just a nice add-on. I do like having them, but if you don't have as much space, those adjustable weights, there's all kinds of different brands that go all the way up to like 90 pounds. So those would be really good, take up less space, but just be careful. You don't want to throw them on the ground. I don't throw mine on the ground. Even if I fail, I just bring them down and sit up. I know a lot of people throw them on the ground, but I've been to lots of gyms where the 90s and 100s are bent, and that's really annoying trying to exercise with them. And then one of my newest additions that I made a video on how you can make one of these yourself is a deadlift platform. Most of them would just be right here where the rubber stops, like a 4x8 platform. But I made mine deeper right here so I could use it for squats. And since I never close this, just have it all in right here. And it's been really nice. I size my logo so that when I'm doing deadlifts, I put my toes in the same place every time. Works out nicely. Same for squats. I usually put my heels up against the letters here, or if I'm facing this way, I can make sure everything's square. and looking on. And speaking of looking at stuff, behind you is the mirror. So I like having a mirror. Aside from just liking looking at yourself, it helps with form, because when I was doing squats and stuff, I could see, oh look, I'm doing a squat and my knees are going like this on the way up. I'm like, okay, I'm probably going too heavy. And I was able to look at it and fix my form, so when I do my squat, straight up and straight down, and don't have any of this knee wobbling going on, which you might not notice if you're just doing your squat and trying to push through it looking up. So it does help with checking form and getting your ego out of the equation. Oh, and another attachment that I don't use often, I got these guys for sticking your arms through and doing leg raises, because I used to try to do leg raises like this, but my arms and grip would get more tired before my abs do. So you're gonna stick your arms through here, hold on to this, and get some leg raises in there. But I rarely do ab stuff, so not something that's necessary. And this, got an easy curl bar, which I like for doing curls, because with the barbell, same thing with my bicep. If I'm just using a straight bar, it might hurt. We got some better angle options on this for wide grip or narrow grip, depending on how you want to do it. And this is a rogue bar as well, but this one was pretty cheap. If you look on their website, they have what are called boneyard bars, where they have some kind of blemish or problem with them. And they sell them for a lot cheaper. Like you see this one, it had this blemish here. I'm like, so I'm gonna get $100 off because it has a little scratch. Like, these things are gonna get scratched up in my garage anyway, so who cares? So take a look at that if you're wanting to get a quality bar that might just have a little blemish. It just gives it some character, and then you save money. And then the last thing we have are different types of weights. So when I started doing heavy deadlifts, I started buying these from Rogue. These are the cheapest ones you can get, these 45 pounders. They're recycled rubber. And I made a video comparing this with their other ones as well that you can check out. But these have a lot of bounce. They're a lot cheaper, but they're also not that precise. Like you can see, this says 43.6. And then I've got one over here that's 44.3. So I weighed all of these, and they're anywhere from half a pound to a pound and a half off. So take that into account when you're lifting. I have all my weights measured out, and I have on my phone combinations of weights and knowing how much I'm actually lifting. Because if one day I use all these and then the next day I use all these, I may be lifting an extra 3 pounds and not realize it and be like, man, I couldn't get as many reps, but it's because I actually had more weight than I did before. Whereas these are calibrated training weights. They're rubber on the outside, the steel on the inside, but these are within like 0.1 pounds for all of them. So these are a lot more precise, and they also cost just about twice as much. I was gonna keep buying these rubber ones, but I realized once I get to around 405, I'm not gonna be able to stack any more on my bar because they're so thick. So I started buying these as well, and now I use a combination of them because I want to get up to 500 pounds, so I'll have to use a combination of those and these weights here. But I like these ones so much, I ended up getting a set of 35s, 25s, and I have 2 sets of the 45-pound one. And also got some of these cheap. This is also the recycled rubber, some 10-pounders, because my daughters wanted to start deadlifting with me. So I wanted the bar to be the correct height with some lightweight, and that works out for them. And these are a recent addition as well, 1.25 pounds. Because I'm to the point where I have to make small jumps. I can't just go up 5-10 pounds all the time because I'm getting old and I'm getting weak. My wife's shaking her head laughing at me. Is that everything? Did I leave anything out?
Chalkboards?
I used to use this. I keep track on my phone now, but I used to come out here, mark everything, but I changed up the programs a bunch, or different exercises started hurting things. I didn't feel like changing things around, so I just keep track on my phone now. And I would suggest doing that on my phone. I have a list of every different type of exercise I do at home or in the gyms with different types of machines. So when I go somewhere, I can be like, oh, I'll use that machine. What I do on that? And I scroll through on my leg day and be like, okay, with these single standing leg extension machine, I did 65 pounds for 8 reps. Instead of just going in and guessing, I can have something at least to shoot for and try to do a little bit more weight or a little more reps than I did the last time with that exercise. So keeping track of stuff will help you make progress for sure. One other thing I forgot, because it's been cold out, but it's starting to get warm in the summertime. This massive fan is a good investment. If you live in the South or somewhere where it gets in the 90s and 100s, having some air blown on you when you're working out here and sweating like crazy is definitely a big help. So that is definitely a necessary item. And that is the home gym. I post lots of lifts I do on Instagram at Camber Fitness if you want to check that out. But if you have any questions about any type of gear in general, post them in the comments and I'll let you know if that'll be a good thing for you to use or if it's probably a waste of money, because I could probably get rid of a lot of stuff in here. Wouldn't miss it, but it is nice to have things available if I'm like, oh, I want to try this. Or if I see someone doing something online that maybe that'll work better for my elbow joint or my shoulder, something like that. The hardest thing is legs, because you know, squats and lunges you can do here. That bench with leg extension, leg curl has really helped out a lot with leg training for me. But that's all done. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.